Hello and welcome to a new edition of Africa Today, where we get you the latest from the African continent, and we start off our show with these leading stories. Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara won on Monday a third term with 94.27% of the vote. Ouattara signaled that he was open to dialogue with the opposition to enable calm to return to the nation following violent protests before and after the elections. Details follow.
Ivory Coast President Alassane Ouattara has invited his rival, former President Henry Konan Bedi, for talks following violence sparked by his landslide win for the controversial third term. Opposition leaders boycotted last month's vote and vowed to set up a transitional government that would organize fresh elections. On Monday, the Constitutional Court confirmed Mr. Ouattara's win. He received 94.27% of the votes. No appeal against the presidential election is now possible. President Ouattara invited Mr. Bedi to a meeting in the next few days for an open and sincere dialogue to help to restore confidence. Several opposition leaders face charges of terrorism and sedition after rejecting President Ouattara's re-election. At least 40 people have been killed in election-related clashes since August.
And we move to Libya, where political representatives of Libya's opposition sides initiated talks in Tunisia on Monday in the hope of achieving a cooperation agreement on national elections to eventually bring about a resolution to the country's conflict. 75 delegates attended the meeting of the Libyan Political Dialogue Forum aimed at establishing a unity government in the war-torn country. Here is the full story.
The UN launched talks among Libyans on Monday aimed at creating a united government and preparing for elections. The 75 delegates selected by the UN to represent existing state bodies and groups from across Libya's political and social spectrum met in Tunisia after months of relative calm and a key ceasefire deal in October. And in a video message, UN Chief Antonio Guterres told the delegates they had the opportunity to end the tragic conflict in the country. October's ceasefire deal between the two rival administrations in the east and west has allowed for oil production to resume and spurred progress on efforts to end years of political deadlock. This week's talk near the Tunisian capital aimed to unify Libya under a single interim executive and pave the way for the national elections. As well as preparing for national polls, the interim executive will face the challenges of providing basic services in a country racked by economic woes and the coronavirus pandemic. The UN and the world leaders have welcomed the talks. Guterres urged world powers to support peace efforts and to respect the long-standing UN arms embargo.
And hopes are soaring that a COVID vaccine is within reach, following news on Monday that an interim analysis has shown Pfizer-BioNTech's candidate was 90% effective in protecting people from transmission of the virus in global trials. Details follow.
Pfizer Inc. said on Monday its experimental COVID-19 vaccine was more than 90% effective, a major victory in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. Pfizer and German partner BioNTech SE are the first drug makers to release successful data from a large-scale clinical trial of a coronavirus vaccine. The company said that they have so far found no serious safety concerns and expect to seek U.S. authorization this month for emergency use of the vaccine. Health experts said Pfizer's results were positive for all COVID-19 vaccines currently in development, since they showed the shots are going after the right target and there are proof of concept that the disease can be halted with vaccination. If Pfizer's vaccine is authorized, the number of doses will initially be limited and many questions remain, including how long the vaccine will provide protection. Meanwhile, Pfizer expects to seek broad U.S. authorization for emergency use of the vaccine for people aged 16 to 85. And to do so, it will need 2 months of the safety data from about half of the study's 44,000 participants, which is expected late this month. Pfizer and BioNTech have a 1.95 US billion contract with the U.S. government to deliver 100 million vaccine doses beginning this year. They have also reached supply agreements with the European Union, the United Kingdom, Canada and Japan. Pfizer said it expects to produce up 1.3 billion doses of the vaccine in 2021. Vaccines are seen as essential tools to help end the health crisis that has shattered businesses and left millions out of work. Millions of children whose schools were closed in March remain in remote learning programs.
And to shed more light on the new vaccine, we are joined over the phone by Dr. Mohammed Nasser, Professor of Cardiology. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Lily. How are you doing?
Great, sir. So big news to humanity surfaced yesterday with Pfizer and BioNTech announcing their vaccine was 90% effective. How positive is such news and what does it mean for the whole pandemic situation?
By chance, before you called me, I was reading an article about this. It's very curious. This is a new vaccine. It has been prepared by two German of Turkish origin living in Germany. They were used to work on they were doing research to find a vaccine against cancer, and then when the COVID arrived, they turned their activities to find a vaccine. And in fact, they succeeded in finding a vaccine 90% efficient, and it was very from the third stage, it has shown that it is efficient. Nevertheless, it works on the messenger RNA, not on the DNA, and it prevents what is curious in it prevents the complications when you take it. It prevents the severity of the disease. It avoids morbidity and mortality, and allows patients to be cured with less morbidity and mortality. But it does not prevent the propagation of the disease. This is the key. What I read today, and we are in need of another vaccine that gives the patient antibodies that prevent the propagation of the vaccine. This means that this vaccine will help the patient, will diminish the morbidity and will diminish the mortality, but it will not stop the propagation of the disease. But nevertheless, it is something very, 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 very positive, and it's a very step forward, and it is very efficient.
Yes.
90% efficient.
So yes, sir.
And I think this is a first step to avoid the morbidity and mortality, because this is one of the catastrophes we were confronted with. One of my old residents phoned me from Germany and told me that the new virus actually has been mutated in the mink, and the animal that gives the bison, and this is why in Denmark they are in the elevation of the mink, they are killing all these animals to protect the humans, and the new virus in Europe is very virulent because the patient comes with a totally destroyed lung, and they have to put these patients on ECMO. It's a type of heart-lung machine that performs the function of the lung until the lung recovers. But the problem is that in this ECMO, the use of the ECMO in Egypt, for example, we have ECMO in Egypt that they use, one single use goes to 250,000 pounds, extremely expensive. So we cannot, there is no social security system that can afford such expenses. And this is why everybody is now is concentrating on the protection, the prevention, and the prevention, the distension, putting the masks, washing the hands, using alcohol and all this, avoiding promiscuities, avoiding getting out to agglomeration without, except in a real need. I think this is the key. In addition to to this vaccine, which I do not think it will be commercialized before next year or in the winter, in the spring of next year.
Yes.
This is what I read in the article before you called me. It was just by chance that I.
So, sir, how do you describe the virus now? Do you think that it's more spread among people, but it's less aggressive than before?
The virus actually in Egypt is less aggressive. This is why it is extremely important.
It's less aggressive,
to be rigorous, to be very rigorous, and to protect our frontiers, our borders. Because we don't want this virulent virus in Europe actually to come to Egypt. This is why we have
so, sir, the strain in Europe...
To detect each passenger has to be explored, and in order to avoid entrance of this virus, I think this is the key. And in addition, the population should be wise enough to adopt the measures of security in order of prevention and prevention. Because if we have a lot of patients, we cannot afford ECMO for all the patients. It will be a catastrophe. So even in Germany, in France, I found one of my friends, the pioneer of the ECMO. He said he cannot afford the ECMO for the patient. This is why the prevention is the key.
Yes. So, sir, if the vaccine gets U.S. board authorization, the number of shots, of course, will be limited. So where does this leave African countries, and what guarantees fair distribution of it?
You remember, this reminds me with the treatment of AIDS.
Yes.
You remember that the most endemic area with AIDS, it was Africa, and they couldn't afford the price of the medications until by that time George Bush diminished the cost of the price of this for Africa and offered it. I think by the number when there is by the number the cost will decrease. By the number of the patients, the cost will decrease, as it happened with the triple therapy of the HIV.
So, sir, if we talk about the vaccine, will it provide immunity against different strains or the strains which are found now in the United States and Europe? Yes, Dr. Mohammed?
Yes.
Yes, I'm talking about the different strains of the vaccine and the new one that is now discovered in the United States. Will it be possible for all people to take it, or it will be more functional in the United States and Europe?
Yes, I think it's. But the problem is that even with the severity of the virus, now we know how to tackle patients with COVID.
Yes.
We start early by using anticoagulation, and especially not anticoagulation, aspirin or anticoagulation, anti-factor 10, rivarospire, etc. All this, the group of riva, and then we give small doses of corticosteroids. Hello?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Small doses of corticosteroids, antibiotics because there is a secondary infection with an exaggerated allergic reaction. It's called the cytokine storm. It's a mediator that creates an allergic reaction. It fills the alveoli with water, with fluids, etc., and handicap change of gases. So we know now that we use small doses of corticosteroids the use of anticoagulation, anti-factor 10 as rapid as possible, the use of antibiotic for the secondary bacterial infection, the use of elements that increase the immunity, like vitamin C, like zinc, like vitamin D, without abuse or without taking too much. I think this has greatly diminished the morbidity and the mortality.
Yes. So, sir, if we talk about the African countries, we can all notice that the virus is not spread in many African countries as we can see in the United States and Europe. Do you think what is the reason behind that?
I have no real scientific data based on evidence,
yes.
But I think the temperature plays a role. You see that now in Egypt we are not yet in the second vogue because we are not yet in a very cold weather.
Yes. Okay.
So
you related to weather?
Because if I am a scientific man, I cannot say something like this or declare something like this unless I have evidence. Stage 1. You know, in medicine is based on evidence. I cannot tell it.
Yes,
but this is what we call clinical impression. But clinical impression may give an idea, but it's not always an accurate information.
So, sir, also if we talk about Egypt and cooperation with African countries in the field of medical convoys, sending medical convoys and helping them in different domains, how do you see this?
This is extremely important, and
yes.
And I think Africa is they are all African countries are brothers and friends, and they are an important market also for Egypt, for Egyptian production. I personally, when did many missions as a cardiac surgeon.
Yes, Dr. Mohammed, I can hear you.
I was used to go for 1 week to operate and to come back, and it was very useful. And when we were used to go, we were used to take with us Egyptian products, Egyptian materials, and this. So it is extremely important to these convoys because it's not only it's a double exchange. We help them and we expose our goods and our know-how and our technology, and this is an extremely beneficial collaboration.
So, sir, if we talk again about the vaccine, and there are also many questions as to how long this vaccine provides protection to patients, and what are your thoughts on this?
But anyhow, with any new vaccine, we have to wait because not uncommonly, until now, this Pfizer vaccine from did not show side effects. But I think we have to be very cautious to wait until its use is diffused and to see if there is side effects or not. Because some of the vaccines that has been presented on the market showed some complications recently, and some of the patients had multiple sclerosis, and so I think we have to be very cautious. Yes. I mean, in science, we should not act by the media or by the scoop of the media and cry glory rapidly. We have to be ponderated, moderated, and take the things in a very calm and quiet way, with the real statistics based on the real science of statistics that can give us, everything is relative, but gives us an evidence at least of stage 1.
Yes, finally, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Mohammed Nasr, Professor of Cardiology. Thank you, sir, for being with us. And by that, dear viewers, we come to the end of today's edition of Africa Today. Thank you for watching.